So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our keynote tonight. Someone I know really well. I've had the pleasure of working with the Suter Company in my capacity as Sundog, but I've also been able to watch an amazing leader, a third generation, take the reins of an incredible company and not just look at it from the standpoint of how can we produce and make goods and make a profit, right? But how can we actually leave a legacy? How can we leave our fingerprint on our community? And with Tim at the helm, the way he has mentored his staff through Suter University, the way he has mentored budding entrepreneurs with his work at Kishwaukee College in the entrepreneurial class, as well as the time he's just taken for many of us in this room just to share a little insight on how to run your business, he's been an absolutely fantastic leader and fingerprint maker within our community. I got to mention he's on the board of directors for the DCCF, the Kish Family YMCA. He's a lunch buddy, but we all know him especially from Make a Difference and the work that they have done with that organization that I'm proud to participate and my staff is proud to participate in every year. But I also got to call out, Tim's got his MBA from Northern Illinois University. Go Huskies, baby. And he got his bachelor's from some school in Oxford, Ohio, not sure which. Tim is here with his wife Julie, and he lives in DeKalb with his 2 children. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Tim Suter to the stage.
Thanks, Cohen. I gotta lower this. I'm not as tall as I look up here. I guess that's gonna have to do. So we're gonna get the slides up there. So thanks everybody. You know, I gotta say, being the keynote speaker is intimidating. So I hope this goes well. I hope I can add some value and offer a little bit of insight on some of the things we do at the Suter Company. And I'm gonna start out with a little bit of a tangent that's gonna seem off base for a meeting about economic development, but I think it'll make sense by the time that I'm done. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about actually is happiness at work. So I'm going to see if I can get my first slide to pull up here. So, you know, it's this funny thing, right? If you have a full-time job, you're actually going to spend at least half of your waking hours at work. That's a big commitment. But unfortunately, as it turns out, when you read the statistics, there's not very many people who love what they do. According to ADP research, only about 16% of all employees are fully engaged at their job. 80% of Americans don't trust corporate leaders, and only about 40% of people who are interviewed suggest that they have what they would call a good job. So that's a little maybe discouraging on the surface, but I want to tap into that a little bit deeper as we go along here. I'd also like to mention that, well, it is work after all, and maybe we're not really supposed to love our work. It's work. Maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't have to love what we do every day. But as it turns out, that's super important, which brings me to my next slide. Does it matter? And the answer is absolutely yes. So the Gallup organization is in the midst of literally this 100-year commitment to survey employees all around the world on what brings the most happiness. And you can see the categories up on the screen there, and it would be things you might expect, like good health, a good job, love and respect from others, money for your needs, and a better life for your children, those sorts of things. Well, it turns out that in the midst of their research, what they're figuring out is that, if it will pop up there, having a good job is actually the single biggest contributor to our overall happiness. That's pretty striking. When I saw that research, I was, I guess, not totally surprised, but I certainly wouldn't have thought it would have been number one. So at the Suter Company, we've wrestled with that quite a bit, this sort of dichotomy that being happy at work is important to our overall fulfillment in life, and yet most people don't tend to be happy at work. So what's the answer to that? Well, I'm not up here to tell you that we have the answer, but it's something that we're chasing. It's a journey that we're on, and we've had a lot of fun chasing that. But the idea of loving what you do and coming to a great place to work every day is something that we're busy at improving on every single day. So I'm just going to share a little bit about the Suter Company and what we do, and then try to get back to how do we try to chase that? How do we try to tap into I'll use the word happiness at work or engagement at work. And you might be wondering, well, what in the world does that have to do with economic development? And I'll try to make that point too, but I'll tell you that I think it's the key. Because if you want to serve your customers with excellence, if you want to grow your business, if you want to tap into the creativity and the genius that are around you every day with the people you work with, having them engaged and happy at work is absolutely critical. So I'm going to change gears a little bit and just talk a little bit about the Suter Company and what we do. I know many of you probably know some of these things, others maybe not. We're kind of a behind-the-scenes business here in town, so some of this will be new information, but I wanted to start off with construction since this was an economic development meeting, and we've been busy lately, and I got to say, it wasn't really my intention to call out an individual in the crowd tonight, but Russ, I just have to thank you for everything you've contributed to the Suter Company over many, many years of helping us grow and expand. I appreciate you both as a friend and a general contractor, so thank you, Russ, for that. So I think most people are aware that we have two facilities, both are in Sycamore, and we actually have one employee who doesn't work in Sycamore. He lives out in Maryland, but other than that, we're all here. We're all here in Sycamore or in the surrounding area anyway. We have had 5 different construction projects in the last 12 years. 2 of them on our older facility on May Street. And unless you are on your way to the Suter Company or Ozinga, you've probably never been on May Street. It's a residential area that we're completely landlocked at, which is what led us to the leap over to our facility on Bethany Road, which we built there originally in 2007. Had a big expansion last year, moved our fresh salad operation into that space as of October of last year, and now as Paul mentioned, if I can get the slide to move ahead here. As Paul mentioned, we're moving our administrative offices over to Bethany, and so as of, I won't commit you to anything, Russ, but as of sometime next year, our headquarters will officially move over to the Bethany Road facility. So we're excited about that, and excited to get that project underway. So about the company. Family owned and operated since the very beginning. My grandpa actually started the company in about 1925. Ran the business essentially his whole life. My mom and dad are here tonight. My dad ran the company as second generation for his career, and then I joined the company right out of college in 1990 and have been there ever since. So we have about 280 total employees and growing. We're a little bit unique in our business in the food processing industry. It's unusual to have one company combined canning or shelf-stable products with refrigerated perishable foods. So we're a little bit unique in that regard and bringing those both under one operation. A lot of people don't realize how highly regulated the food business is. So we fall under both the USDA as well as the FDA. And one little interesting bit of trivia that most people don't realize is that as a meat and poultry processor, we have a USDA inspector on site every single day that we're in operation. So we have to give them an office and a parking spot, and it's the best parking spot. You got that right, Dave. Believe me, they wouldn't have it any other way. So in terms of what do we really do, we're a manufacturer of food products in its simplest way of stating it. And convenience is really the driver for everything that we do. Our business, we don't really do anything under our own brand. So everything is packed, either co-packed for other manufacturers or private labeled for chain stores like an Aldi or a Kroger or some of those large names that you would recognize. So nowhere out there can you pick up a product and see the Suter name on it. It's always the brand of our customers. And so because of that, we very intentionally partner with customers who are very strong in brand, very strong in distribution, very strong in sales and marketing. And so our focus is almost entirely on manufacturing. So that's a little bit different approach to what we do. Product development is a huge part of what we do. We essentially become an extension of our customer's operation through our test kitchen. We innovate for our customers. They expect creativity and responsiveness. They expect things to be customized. Another unique thing about our business is that we really don't make the same product for any two customers. Everybody buys something unique, whether it's recipe, packaging, whatever that might be. And so as a result of that, we're constantly in product development. Hundreds of products being developed every year, many of which never see the light of day. In fact, if we get 2 or 3 successful products out of the several hundred we develop every year, that's a good year. And it also takes a long time. So part of our product development approach, though, is during that product development phase, which lasts usually a minimum of a year, sometimes 2 years, we're developing relationships all along. And so we're getting our foot in the door, and we're establishing a long-term high loyalty situation with those partners through that product development process. And then they end up with a product that they consider to be their own. And in many cases, we'll protect that recipe or that packaging for a given customer. You all can imagine, because we all experience this every day in terms of what's driving our growth. It's the busy lifestyle that we all have, right? It's 2-income families, and you go to a drive-through now, and there's double drive-through lanes, and there's home meal delivery services, and there's grocery delivery services, and meal kits have become more popular. Everybody wants everything to be ready to eat. Convenience is absolutely the driver of the trend that we're riding in terms of our growth. That can be for an individual consumer who doesn't have time to make lunch for their kids, who doesn't have time to make their own lunch, has to eat at the office or in the car, whatever that might be. It might also be for a business operator. So if we sell a tuna salad, as an example, to a restaurant, that saves them from having to make that product in the back room, puts their people out front serving their customers. So convenience, one way or another, is a very, very common thread that runs through kind of everything that we do. And obviously, we don't see that reversing and changing anytime soon. People are busier than ever, and that's an ever-increasing thing that we're trying to pour into with unique solutions for our customers, is just to make people's lives simpler. Our product development team also does a great job of that, because many of our customers don't have those kind of resources where they have a test kitchen and the talent that we have in the test kitchen to develop unique recipes and follow trends that are going on out in the food business. So that's a critical part of what we do. Some of the logos of the brands that we pack under, these would all be pretty much household names that you'd be familiar with. So again, our brand isn't on anything that we make by the time it reaches a retail store. One of the most common questions I get is, well, where can I buy one of your products? So I just threw up 3 examples of local stores that carry our stuff. So if you shop at Aldi, you can find our chicken salads there. If you go to lunch at Panera Bread and have a tuna salad sandwich, you'd be eating our tuna salad. If you go to just about any C-store or gas station in the country, you can find Deli Express sandwiches, and those would be our salad sandwiches. We don't make the sandwiches, we make the salad, chicken, tuna, ham, egg, those kind of things that are found in convenience stores throughout, and our products are found throughout the United States and Canada, by the way. And I realize I'm moving through this fairly quickly, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time as we go along here. So next up, it used to be when I was growing up that if you wanted groceries, you would actually just go to the grocery store, and that seems to make sense. But in this day and age, you can get groceries anywhere, literally. I mean, you go to Menards, you can get groceries. Literally. So in terms of channels of distribution, very, very fragmented. Whether that's traditional grocery like a Jewel or a Hy-Vee or a Meijer that's coming to town, wholesale clubs like a Sam's or a BJ's or Costco, big box retailers like Target or Walmart, discount grocers like Aldi or Lidl, C-stores that might be a 7-Eleven, BP, Casey's, any of those types of stores, dollar stores, big segment for grocery these days. Dollar stores, that would be Family Dollar, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, and then some food service operations, as I mentioned, Panera is one example. So channels of distribution, very fragmented, and again, distributed all over the United States and Canada. Product always leaves our facility, generally in large or generally truckload quantities, and goes to distribution centers, so we don't do anything that's delivery to an individual store, always to a distribution center that services the stores from there. We have, business is challenging every single day, and believe me when I tell you, we have our share of stubbed toes and failures. And in fact, my new favorite quote is at the bottom of the screen there. I've been sharing this a lot in the last couple weeks, which is that excellence is not the absence of failure, because we have a lot of challenges in the food business that we wrestle with every single day, and it's why I'm not quite fully up top there anymore. But whether that's supply chain issues, food safety issues, we're a manufacturing company, so employee safety is a critical priority. Staffing and adding talent's a big issue. We have, over our recent growth, we pretty much, for going on a decade straight now, have added about 20 employees every year. So we're almost constantly hiring. I can't really remember the last time we weren't hiring at the Suter Company. And then really it's just being unique. How can you be innovative and unique? How can you provide value to your customers in a way that they aren't already getting? In our case, most of our products are consumed around lunchtime or as a snack or appetizer. So Bill and I were talking about this a little bit earlier in terms of competition. We're essentially competing for our little bitty share of the lunch market or the snack and appetizer market. You know, we don't do breakfast, we don't do center of the plate dinner, we certainly don't do beverage. So we're really looking at lunch and snacks and appetizers. So in that sense, we're competing with, you know, the Subways and McDonald's of the world, or whatever it is you're all going to do for lunch tomorrow, so to speak. But being unique and innovative is it's the last one on my list, but it's probably the biggest challenge, and I think we all face that challenge in some way, whatever industry you happen to be in. You know, you walk into a grocery store in this day and age, and there's literally 50,000 products in a full-service grocery store. So how do you stand out? How do you do something that somebody else isn't already doing? It's a big challenge, and it's something that you know that we live and breathe and work on every single day and try to deliver for our customers by listening well to them. So circling back to where I started, this dichotomy of happiness at work being important, and yet not all that many people are happy at work, and how do you solve that problem? Well, we see a tremendous opportunity in chasing that solution. And again, I'm not here to say that we've found the answer. I'm just saying that it's something that we're on a journey towards, because we think if we can solve it, it's a big opportunity to be realized. So you know, first of all, like anything in life, the very first thing you have to do is make up your mind that that's actually a priority, is to create an environment in your workplace where people are going to be engaged and going to be happy. So it doesn't do any good to talk about it. It has to be a priority, and it has to be a priority that you're willing to put resources up against and take action on. So we made that decision a long time ago, and it's something we've been pursuing for many years, and we'll continue to do so. I love this quote on the screen that action is our only access to impacting life. The world doesn't care what we intend to do. So you got to set it as a priority. You got to go after it. The other thing is if you expect people to be engaged at work and you expect people to be happy at work, it needs to not be a transaction, right? It needs to be a relationship. So this is kind of a newer concept that we've been pursuing. It's like, well, okay, how do I decide if my team is engaged, if they're in a relationship with the company? And the three questions are on the screen are questions that we feel like are important questions in that regard. And the first one is do I believe in the company that I work for? In other words, do I trust it? It's an important question. If you expect me to come to work and be engaged every day, I better trust the company that I work for. The second one, do you love the people that you work with, and demonstrate that by living out the values that we all share? And yes, we do use the word love at the Suter Company. It's an important part of being in our work family and caring for one another. So we mean that when we say, do you love the people that you work with? Are you happy on your team? Do you like the people that you get to show up and spend 10 hours a day with? I hope so. And then the last thing is if you believe in the company you work for and you love the people you work with, are you in a job where you can express your natural talents and work at your job with all of your heart? Because if you have a full-time job and you're not able to do that, that's a long day. And again, I'm not saying we've addressed each one of these perfectly by any stretch, but we're chasing that, and it's something that's a journey that we're on. So kind of at the end of the day, we feel like if you can answer yes to these three questions at least most of the time, then that's an indication that you're not at work for a transaction, you're in a relationship with the company that you work for. The other thing that we do is we're very clear and explicit about our values, our core values, and what our vision is for the company. And so you can see the core value areas there, things like how we're going to treat others, how we're going to make decisions, our passion for taking care of the customer, our passion for providing exceptional care for our employees, the idea of getting better every day, learning, being curious, taking classes, whatever that looks like, and then ultimately giving back and being generous. And if we can live out those values, we think we have a pretty good shot at fulfilling our vision statement, which is to enrich lives for generations. So we're very long-term oriented. We don't, when we fail, we don't give up. We get back after it, try new ideas, and keep pursuing that. So we're very clear about our values and our vision for what we're trying to accomplish. What does that look like? What does that look like to care for people in an exceptional way? For us, some examples of the unique programs that we offer are up on the screen now. Cohen mentioned one of them. We have free on-site educational opportunities for our employees through a program called Suter U. We have leadership development training for all of our employees, not just the management team, but for all of our employees through a program called A Leader's Voyage. We offer citizenship classes to our employees who are authorized to work in the U.S. but not yet U.S. citizens. We have an online video resource product called Right Now Media at Work that's free access for our employees on all kinds of educational and training videos. We offer an annual service calendar, which is an opportunity for all of our employees to engage at least once a month in some sort of a volunteer service or team building activity. Of course, we host our annual event for Feed My Starving Children every year, just concluded this last weekend. We actually have chaplains that serve our employees every week. We have four chaplains from an organization called Marketplace Chaplains that are in our plants every week, just there listening, talking with and getting to know our employees. And then if somebody has a need, health crisis in their family, parenting issue, financial crisis, you name it, our chaplains are there to serve those employees in any way that they need. And they're professional, trained caregivers, and that's what they do, is listen and serve. They visit hospitals, they come to funerals, they can officiate weddings. They will serve our employees in any way that they can. And then last but not least, probably the most unique thing that we do is a program called The Dream Manager, which is based on a book by Matthew Kelly. We have two people whose job is to solely care for our employees as a one-on-one, what I would call a life coach. Helps employees set goals and realize their dreams by laying out action plans and becoming an accountability partner. That might be home ownership, it might be health and fitness, it might be going back to school, it might be going on a fun trip, taking your family to Disney. Whatever people's dreams are, our dream managers help people try to realize those goals by coming alongside them and being an accountability partner. So those are just some examples on top of the normal benefits that you would expect in terms of providing exceptional care for our employees and seeing the whole person, right? No transaction, this is a relationship. We see the whole person. We want to care for them financially, we want to care for them emotionally, physically, spiritually, the whole ball of wax. So we're intentional. Again, we make it a priority, we put resources against it. Not any one of these programs costs our employees a penny. And frankly, they don't cost the company all that much compared to normal benefits. So they've all proven to be great tools for attracting and retaining amazing people at the organization. Let's see if I can get this to go forward here. So one of the things we're flirting with now is this idea of, in business, we generally know that things that get measured get paid attention to and eventually improve. And so we're starting to play with this idea of having an impact report. And there's some categories down the side, and I'm not going to read this whole thing, or don't expect you to, but it just was to illustrate a point. You know, in business, we're like everybody else. We measure lots and lots of numbers, right? And whether that's sales or earnings or return on investment or expansion or cash flow or inventory turns, all that stuff, we measure the heck out of all that stuff because that's how we were trained. When we went to school, that's what we learned. When we worked in our other careers, that's what we were told we had to do, is measure everything you can, know the numbers. It's a numbers business. We were all trained to that. Well, it's more than a numbers business. Numbers are important, but there's more to it than that. So then we work up the impact report there through areas like business excellence and growth and development. And ultimately, we're trying to start to measure, are we actually enriching lives? That's our vision statement. Is that a reality, or are we just talking about that? And so we're trying to come up with a way to have metrics, and this is an emotional, personal thing, so it's hard to come up with metrics sometimes, but we're trying to come up with a way to measure whether or not we're making progress in these areas, to ultimately determine whether or not we're fulfilling our vision to enrich lives and really living out our values. So the next slide I'm going to show here, for those of you who might be thinking, well, this all sounds interesting and good and maybe a little soft. I want to share some data with you. And first, by show of hands, how many of you in this room have either heard of or read the book Good to Great? Pretty big number of hands up around the room. How about the book Firms of Endearment? Yep, almost nobody. That's okay. So we read this book in preparation for our annual retreat for the senior management team this year, and it really validated some of the things that we've been exploring. And it's super interesting stuff. So I am going to read this bullet point because I won't get it quite right if I don't. But a firm of endearment is a company that endears itself to all of its stakeholders by bringing the interests of all stakeholders into strategic alignment. No stakeholder group benefits at the expense of another, and each prospers as others do. They talk about it as gaining a share of heart as opposed to a share of wallet. When I went to school in the early 90s or late 80s actually and got my marketing degree, it was all about share of wallet was what we talked about in our marketing classes. But it turns out that loyalty is more about how people feel, not so much what they think. So in order for people to feel good about your organization and what they're getting from you, it's important that you gain that share of heart, not just a share of wallet. And I know there's a very traditionalist view, and an important view, frankly, about maximizing shareholder value. Absolutely has a place, an important place in every business. Because if you're not fundamentally sound financially, none of the rest of this matters. But the reality is that maximizing shareholder value is actually a result of what you do. It's not what you set out to do, or it's not a strategy. So these authors and firms of endearment studied companies that they recognized who were appealing to all of their stakeholders, meaning community, employees, customers, shareholders, all stakeholders. And there's an interesting result there if you take the time to read that chart. So good to great companies, of course, many of you have read that book, and I've heard of that. It's a best-selling book by a really wide margin. Exceptional performance, double the S&P over a 5-year period, well exceeding it over a 10-year period. But firms of endearment, as recognized by these authors, and they had recognized, I think it was 50-some organization that qualified as a firm of endearment, you can see that their results not only double the S&P in the first 5 years, but far exceeded even good to great companies over the long haul. Again, over the long haul, right? This isn't something you do for 1 month or 1 year and decide whether it worked or not. It's a very much of a long-term approach. So the truth of the matter is, as a results-oriented business, which I'm sure most of us are, by providing exceptional care for your employees, by investing in your own community, by taking great care of your customers, the shareholder will do just fine. So that's a bit of data to help validate an approach. So again, just in starting to wrap up here, as we chase this, as we pursue this as an organization, the idea that people can actually enjoy their work and can be engaged at work, I'm absolutely convinced that it's the key to unlocking economic development. Because again, as I said earlier, when you talk about serving your customers with excellence, and when you talk about what it means to be a growing, healthy business, having an engaged and happy and talented workforce is going to be fundamental to success. It's absolutely critical. And I personally believe that each of us, from a work perspective, those of you in the room who have the opportunity to lead teams or lead an organization, I happen to believe that we all have a unique opportunity as leaders of organizations. And I can't really share how I feel about that opportunity without sharing just a little bit about my faith. But it doesn't have to be a faith-based thing. So about 5 years ago, I joined an organization called C12, which is an advisory group for Christian CEOs, and they've really challenged us to think about things differently as we lead our businesses. And the pictures on the screen are pictures of 2 different things that are on my bulletin board in front of my desk at work. And the one is trying to ask myself as often as possible, am I acting like an owner or am I acting like a steward? And so that word stewardship is talking about managing something well that you don't own if you're an effective steward. So when you understand that this isn't yours and you don't need to hold on to it with closed fists, that opens up some new possibilities. And the other thing is for me personally, I like to ask myself, if I had to go to God and argue for him to let me be CEO again next year, what would I say? And would he give me my job back? And I want to have an answer to that question. I know there's some chuckles about that, and that's fine, but it's an important question to me. Am I leading this business just for my own sake? Or do I really believe in my community and the teams that we lead and things of that nature? So whether or not it's faith-based is not the issue. As a leader, I think we all have an opportunity, right, to bring our values, to bring our beliefs into the workplace. If they sound anything like caring for others, being generous, giving back, any of those things resonate with you, you have an opportunity to do that in your workplace and unlock the potential of the people that you work with, and economic development will take care of itself. So that's just a little bit about what we do and what we're trying to, the journey we're on as a company. And again, we've got a long way to go. We make mistakes every day, but we pick ourselves back up and keep after it. And it's also a lot of fun, by the way, to do this. So I appreciate having the opportunity to be here tonight. And I guess we're going to take a few minutes if there's questions. Is that right, Paul?
Yes, please.
Good.
Questions for Tim?
David.
This isn't a plant, but how many meals did you pack for children? And this year, how many total since you started the program?
So this year it was 1,556,928. And in 10 years, it's 10,708,952. And that's with 42,000 volunteers, by the way. So that's this community. You all know this is an incredible community that we're blessed to live in. I mean, this community shows up and shows up and shows up. So we're grateful for that. Yeah.
Tim, they're offering education opportunities, trying to offer multiple relationship services for your employees. Are you finding the resources available in the community, or do we fall short?
Yes, we're finding the resources available in the community, I would say. Not always, on the first day, so to speak. But yeah, this community, I love this community because those kind of resources are there. People who care are here. Yeah, so we are finding those resources. Always opportunity for improvement, of course, but no, in general, yeah, we are.
Other questions for Tim?
Nope, one more. Hey, Jerry.
Hi, Tim. For someone who has been in this community for a long time, who has worked in private business, I worked in philanthropy and nonprofits, and now I have a great, exciting chapter, perhaps one of the last chapters in my life, and that is government service. As it relates to the core values that you talked about, do you see any correlation or any differences in those three areas? For-profit business, nonprofit organizations, and government service.
Yeah, I don't have experience in those other areas necessarily. I have a little bit of experience in nonprofit just through the boards that I've served on and so on. But of course, 99% of my experience is in the private sector. But I believe the common thread is just caring about people, and wanting to give back and be a part of a community, doing something that's bigger than yourself. So I think that can happen in any sector, whether that's government, education, business, nonprofit, at home raising our kids. So I think there's a huge commonality that ties all those things together.
Other questions for Tim?
Let me get out here. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. When he thinks about, we use love at work, right? But how cool is that? When he says he loves this community, how many of us actually say that, right? And when I sit here and think about the involvement that I've been in this community and the people that I've been around, man, I love DeKalb. I love DeKalb County. I love working with so many of you because it's people like Tim, Bill, Brian, Frank, Paul. It's all of us, that idea of stewardship, right? The volunteerism that we have, the giving back. That's how we move the needle in our community, whether it's economic development, which this organization's about, right? Or whether it's within our families or in our individual businesses. So thanks for the leadership, and thanks for actually just saying it, because it's kind of nice to hear it from someone else and know that it's okay just to say, I love this place, I love you all, and can't thank you enough. Can't thank you enough, Tim, for taking the time out tonight to share what's going on in your organization. I'm going to wrap things up really quick then. On behalf of the Board of Directors and DCDC, got to thank you all for coming out. It's great to see the support in the community and the support of this organization, which I can tell you firsthand in the role that I'm in right now. There's a lot of people that work really hard to make our community as successful as possible from an economic development standpoint, and DCDC is a definite part of that. I got to say, our branding initiative that's coming through, I can't wait to share more of that with you. The impact that's going to make is absolutely fantastic, and I have to give Jeep, where you at, Jeep? Jeep, there she is, Jeep. A lot of kudos for a lot of hard work and chairing that committee, so fantastic. I also got to say we're a nonprofit organization. We are crushing it from a performance level on many ways. Fundraising, we're at $3,800 short, so if anyone can help us drag that $3,800 across the finish line, I'd really appreciate it, because Paul and his team and all of us, we just need to get to work. And we can get to work when we have the dollars we need to be able to drive this organization. So lastly, just want to thank the Board of Directors for all the time that they spend, everyone working in the committees, the members that do that, and all of you volunteering your time to make those impactful. Got to say thank you. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the staff at DCDC for all their hard work they do throughout the year, as well as putting on this event to allow all of us to come together, hang out with each other, enjoy each other's company, and hear about amazing stories like the Suter Company and realize the bar is here, right? And we all need to raise the bar in our lives and in our organizations. So with that, I'll say good night to all of you, and thanks for coming out.